Worst production, like the worst production I think I have seen of an anime in like years. Yeah. So what the fuck is happening with the anime, right? So Isekai Ojisan delayed again. It is weird. It is strange. This is like one of my favorite anime this year, and it's also probably the worst. It's easily the worst produced anime this year, easily, and might be one of the worst produced in my life. The only thing I can remember is Memory 86 having double delays, right? So yeah, let's talk about Isekai Ojisan episode 13 delayed as well. First of all, there's no release date, right? I've given no release date, it's coming back or whatever, and it feels very strange just generate, delaying one episode, right? So that didn't break down here because they previously had lied about delays. So let's break it down, right? So let's break it down. Let's already think. So Isekai Ojisan has been delayed twice, right? So the first time it was delayed, and then they come back now, then in the fall season, was because of COVID issues, right? But that turned out to basically be a lie. And I mean, immediately it was kind of strange when it happened because you were like, there weren't any really new cases or outbreaks at that time, right? Remember, this is like 2020, right? Yeah, this is like 2022. It was kind of weird. Then it turned out that the studio, then Atelier Pondark, it's only done one anime before this anime, right? They basically were lying, right? Yeah, they were kind of lying. There's production issues. There was some internal conflicts or whatever, right? So really like production issues, right? They also have Netflix of the later not releasing episodes over. Yeah, come in there. But so I had that thing first, right? Okay. So it basically was a lie the first time that it was COVID issues. Okay, probably, or what it seems like. But this time, I have to say this thing though, because immediately skeptical, right? They were like, "Oh, it's COVID again. We have to delay it infinitely. The final episode." You're like, "What?" Immediately, you're like, "They're probably lying again, right?" That being said, though, there has actually been some cases now, right, in China, which some depression might be in. The scene might be lying. Don't get me wrong. I still don't really have, why would you trust someone that lied about that thing, like a few months ago? Yeah. Like, your memory is like, no, but you lied to me about that time. But it's more reasonably true this time, though, right? But it's kind of like the whole, the boy that called Wolf, right? So they called Wolf, and it wasn't the wolf yet, they lied about it, right? But now it actually might be an actual wolf, and now it's like, and no one believes them, yeah. You know what I mean? It's straight up, is that story, yeah. They kept saying wolf, 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 like 4 months ago, whatever, right? And people believed them, that was a lie, and now it's like, the actual wolf is coming, and they're like, oh, no one listens to me anymore. So that actually might be true. Let me explain why, right? So because people say, well, but it's in Japan, so no. This studio, right, Atelier Pondark, is a very, very tiny studio. It only has 4 people working there, basically like the director and so on, right? So because of that reasoning, I think all of the animation and so on is probably more or less outsourced, right, to China in this case then. And actually with a lot of animators that they outsource like South Korea, China, sometimes in Europe, America rarely though, but sometimes, I mean, it's not very common, but happens, right? But for example, look at One Piece, right? They outsource to like individual people sitting in Europe, working from home, animating fights and so on, yeah. So you see it all the time, But because the studio is so tiny, I would guess that almost all of the actual production is actually in China, right? Yeah, they're probably outsourcing all of the actual like ground work, right? And the guys in Japan are probably just, directing it, like, oh, this should be this scene or something like that, yeah. But it feels very strange. I've been very unlikely that the voice acting is never done months ago and so on. So it's probably just animation style. But yeah, it feels very, very weird. I mean, but I say it might be true. I do think it's true, though, that all of the groundwork is done in China. That is probably true. But then, of course, if it's bad production or leadership and so on, because like I said, they lied the first time, right? And then it turned out there was mostly just like inner conflict and bad, producers or whatever, right? So why couldn't it be something again? I mean, honestly, yes, while everything is basically done in China, right? The producers or whatever, the owners are in Japan, right? And if they are terrible at their job, which they seem to be, right? They might have planned it badly, and suddenly they know that, oh no, we won't make it in time for, today then, Thursday, right? So they're like, oh, let's lie about COVID again. Also might be a case, right? So that's kind of the content of the storyline, and it's very strange. I think straight up, this might be, seriously, like I said earlier, the worst production. Like the worst production I think I have seen of an anime in like years. Yeah, straight up, right? Maybe something in the old. It's probably some old 80 anime that was produced before, but in the latest few years, I can't remember an anime being this bad done. And also, I mean, again, I love this anime, right? I love this anime. I think it's hilarious. You know, well, it's one of my favorite anime this year, right? But it's the writing, it's the storyline, it's Ojisan. I'm channeling my inner Ojisan, right? I'm a Sega fan, you know, I grew up with the Genesis, Saturn, Dreamcast, and so on, right? And then they went bankrupt, and I loved, you know, all the games, all the games, you know, all the games they got crazy taxi and so on, yeah, all the crazy ideas they had, and then they bankrupt, Shenmue, you know what I mean, so on and so forth, Sonic, Wonder Boy, etc. So I rather show, right? But clearly, it's not even that good looking, right? I'm not saying this like, I mean, come on, it's Ojisan. Compare that to, for example, Demon Slayer that we had earlier, right? Or then we have currently, right? Isekai Ojisan, from all the Mappa, then all the Mappa shows, change show, man. No, but you get my point, yeah. Like those shows, right? Or for example, whatever. There's some darling or whatever, right? Yeah, like we just try out some random shows, right? All these shows are clearly better animated, right? Better produced and so on. So this show that honestly is kind of cheaply, you know, few frames or something. It has the most issues this year. Yeah, I think it is the worst produced anime this year. Yeah, which is really terrible because the jokes are so good, right? The jokes are fantastic. But that also kind of shows you how good Isekai is, right? In my opinion, because yeah, like even if it has like a really low quality anime and so on, right? It definitely still works, right? I mean, I still think it's arguably the funnest anime this year, right? Even though, of course, the animation and so on is lacking, right? You know, and the quality of the waifus or whatever. I mean, they're great female characters, but I mean, in the sense that, you know how they move, or, you know, the body flows, or the fluidity, and so could have been better, you know what I mean? And still didn't work as comedy, right? So that really shows you how the show is great, writing, right, is great, but yeah, production is pretty terrible. But honestly, I mean, it's impressive to have one of the, I would say, the lowest budget shows and still manage to be really terrible with it like twice, right? So yeah, it easily wins this year's worst produced show, yeah. Isekai Ojisan is the worst anime, yeah, production-wise, easily this year. And then, let's talk about Netflix over here. Netflix is doing, Netflix J is always right, so, you know, not recent time and so on, not subbing it. But I am surprised, Netflix is terrible as always, but they haven't even released, but I know, now I watch on TV, right, but haven't even released episode, 8 and 4, right, yeah, which was very strange. Yeah, they just stopped releasing them, not even subbing them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Netflix, not only have they, you know, not subbed them a time or whatever, right, but apparently after 7, where the first break was, they also don't even release them on in Japanese, right, if I'm correct. Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, but apparently they just stopped releasing them, even if the episodes are out, right, on TV. Because I've seen the episode, you know, I reacted and reviewed, right, 8, 9, 10, you know, to 12 and so on, yeah. And Netflix just has the episodes and won't release them. And I just point out, again, it's also Netflix, they are idiots, right, yeah. Disney is a little better, you know, with Bleach, much better there, right. But an issue they both have, right, especially Netflix, is the whole binge idea, right, where I think most anime fans just want to watch one episode per week, right, yeah. And as you see with basically every anime, right, let's say, for example, Bastard, earlier this year, right, which I enjoyed, Netflix had a great episode. Bastard, they did like, what, 12 episodes, right, like a dump, then, you know, 2-3 months later, another 12 episode, yeah. And what happens then is that, you know, you get some hype, right, you review it, I really liked it, you know, and then no one talks about that. Cyberpunk was very good, people talked about it, and it's a very, very big game, but still kind of the same thing, right? Cyberpunk is released, everyone talks about it, it's reviews, blah, 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 and then it kind of dies down, right? If Cyberpunk actually was released one episode per week, right, I think it would be more hype and more fans, right? So they never really understand that binge thing isn't really a thing in the anime, and I generally always been against binging, right, because I always much prefer watching one episode per week anime. Even if I even can binge a show, I'd rather watch it, you know, a few every now and then, because you watch one episode and you can reflect over it, you can think about it, right? I said people example that, I guess the best example is One Piece, right, you know? I've been reading One Piece for 20 plus years, right? And people that go in now to One Piece, read it all, right, in a few days, right, or weeks or whatever, I mean, it's still a good experience, but it's a huge difference, right, for someone that has read it for years and, oh, here's this chapter, right? Oh, who could be this person? Who's the theory? Who killed that guy? Who's hiding behind that door? You know what I mean? All of those, you know, questions and theories and ideas, you all miss out, right, if you just binge it, right, because you can just, you know, read the next page, right? So Netflix, I guess they're waiting for the final episode, and the episode is delayed, so they're not giving it. But it feels really dumb, yeah. But they never learn. They're like, oh, we're gonna sit there and wait for the final episode. And it's just too much, right? But it's really stupid. Yeah, it's really, really stupid. But anyway, yeah. I mean, of course, I hope you guys subscribe. släppat och så, right? We're gonna do a lot more anime stuff coming up here. Top 10 videos, right? Coming up soon here. New Year's Eve. But yeah, I definitely will crown Isekai Ojisan as the worst produced anime this year. Easily. The worst anime, the worst production easily. Holy shit, man. It's impressive to have one episode left. And as I mentioned earlier, I really want into that. Isekai Ojisan is also one of the, again, you know, lowest quality animes, right? You know, from anime sample, fidelity, frame per second, all that stuff, right? Is really low quality in this anime. I still think it's one of the best anime this year, right? But again, that talks to how good the writing is in the comedy and the storylines of it. Yeah, that's a holy shit, man. Still they managed to. And I guess I'll leave a question to you guys out there. Do you trust them? Is this the truth this time? I think it's much more likely this time because there have been some cases in China of the outbreak, but it also just might be the inconvenient lie, right? They're like, oh, it's Mabel, let's blame that shit over there, yeah. Because I do think it's like the wolf thing, right? Yeah, you called wolf once, lied about it, and now it actually happens. You're like, oh, perhaps, right? At best, right? But anyway, guys, have a great New Year's run, and I'm gonna watch. I just saw that they have the Yandere anime. It's been pre-aired. We're gonna watch that soon here. So for that, alright. So you guys have a great day.